And we're live. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on when and where you're watching. This is the Healthcare Leadership Show with Marion Spears Carr. That's me. I'm so glad you're here and just glad to be with you again on another Tuesday. Happy December as we go into the holidays. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for months now. And I'm just honored. Today's conversation is really around this idea of technology beyond what we see and really I said the future is now. That was the title around the intersection between AI and space, and I have the authority on that, Mr. and Dr. Harvey Castro, coming out of Dallas. Dr. Castro, it is an honor to have you on the show. You have such an amazing following on LinkedIn, and I've been following you a while, and thank you for agreeing to come on the show. Say hello to the audience, and please introduce yourself better than I did.
Awesome. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. I sincerely mean that. And thank you so much. And I noticed that you're going to have Scott Becker, he's a friend of mine, coming up next month. So
Yep.
everybody tune in for that. So I'm an emergency room doctor for about 20 years. I've been blessed in that I really look at healthcare and I'm able to combine it with other technologies. When the first iPhone came out, I created an app called IV Meds. It was because I was coding a patient and I had told the nurse, hey, we need to get this IV drip going. And she's like, 1 second, doc, let me go get a textbook. Let me get this calculator. Let me calculate it. And I'm looking at her, I'm thinking, this patient is dying in front of me. We need to act now. And so I created an application. You tap the phone 3 times, boom, there's your drug. And it went viral. I created another 40 applications after that. And so I've
Wow.
always had this passion of like, how can we help people and how can we do it? But then I feel really blessed that if I see something, I'm like, whoa, I see it. Let's create it. And so fast forward, I had emergency rooms here in Dallas, Texas. I had about 8 of
Yep.
them, my own hospital, billing, staffing. And I'm not saying it to brag in any way. I'm saying it more because I saw a need. I saw a need of patients going out to healthcare, not getting good healthcare. And then I thought, let me create a healthcare system the way I think healthcare should be delivered. And so
Mhm.
I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm looking at technology. I use my medicine. And then in 22, this thing called ChatGPT came out. And I chuckle now because when I used to say that, they were like, what? But now they're like, everybody knows what that is. And I wrote the first book, How Can We Use ChatGPT in Healthcare? And that book literally was a public service announcement that launched me. And as a result, I'm an advisor now for the country of Singapore for the Ministry of Health. I am now a chief AI officer for a company called Phantom Space that
Yeah.
focuses on rockets, satellites, and data centers. So that's a little bit about me.
It's fantastic, and I've been reading. Like I said, I've been following you for a while because for those of you who don't know me or watching the show for the very first time, my world, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I've started executive search firms, leadership development firms. I have a new firm called Inflow Executives. It's kind of a unique spin on the combination of business development and executive search and leadership development work. So I've been trying to learn a lot about the technology and particularly what's going on with AI and the stuff that you post in your TEDx, and we'll post these in the comments. Links to those as well are fascinating. If you're watching live, one of the things we love about this show is the interaction of our audience. If you're watching live or watch the replay, please post in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. We have Dr. Fessler out of Yukon, Oklahoma. Dr. Fessler is a friend of mine. Thank you for checking in. If you're watching live, please let us know in the comments because we want you to be involved. And when we're going to talk about questions, you're going to give an opportunity to have questions posted for Dr. Castro. Dr. Castro, one of the things that got me so fired up about having this conversation was your focus on how technology such as satellites, AI, etc., is changing the landscape for access. And there was a quote that you made on your most recent TEDx, and by the way, I'll post that in the comments, that really struck home for me. And for those of you who don't know, I'm from Western North Carolina. I live in the foothills of the mountains of Georgia in the Appalachian region, where access for a lot of patients is difficult. And I work all over the country, particularly in the Midwest and Southwest. Do a lot of work in Texas, where access to healthcare delivery is so critically scarce. And this quote really struck me as so poignant. And you said, "Where you live determines if you live," and you wanted to change that. And you tell a story, and I'd love for you to share how you've taken this understanding of technology and satellite connection to make sure that patient access to the care that they deserve and need is available to them. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because that to me
Yeah.
is the essence of the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, big picture, unfortunately, we live in a reactive world. Most of us don't go to the doctor unless something happens. There's
Right.
not much of a preventative care. And then on
Yes.
top of that, let's add in distance. If you are in an area that's, say, 70 miles away from a hospital, 100 miles away from the nearest hospital, if something happens now and you have an hour to get there too, that's an issue. And
Yep.
so I started thinking, how can we leverage technology? How can we leverage the sky? Can the sky be our first aid advisor? Can the sky be that lifeline? And so my TEDx talk that came out a couple weeks ago talks about where you live really shouldn't determine whether you live. And so I thought, if we can create an infrastructure out in space, think of Starlink with
Yeah.
Elon and SpaceX, and then add AI to the satellite. So not only is it communicating, but it has those AI chips in it to process. And
Mm-hmm.
then if we could pair that with you, now we've created a nice system. But what's missing is the doctor or that AI piece of data analytics. And then I thought, if someone's having a heart rhythm issue that is connected to a smart device, and that smart device is talking to the satellite, now I can buy you time. Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
if I could tell you, hey, you're going to have a heart attack in about a year, you have a year. If I
Yeah.
were to tell you, hey, we're catching some early issues, it might be better you start heading out to the ER now, as opposed to when it starts happening. If I could
Got it.
buy you that extra 30 minutes, that hour,
Mm-hmm.
and I can give you aid beforehand, now I'm really doing more ideally preventative medicine. And I know you're like, preventative, that was just like 30 minutes extra. But you know what? Those 30 minutes may have saved your life. And so that is the goal and the promise. Unfortunately, 50% of the world has limited access to specialty care because of distance,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be finance, or it could be that specialist is not even in your state.
Yeah, I'm working on a project right now with a company called Aegis Healthcare Health Services out of Atlanta, and one of the things we're looking at is basically where cardiology services are not available. And we've looked at a heat map in your state. Matter of fact, Dr. Castro, there are tons of counties and miles and miles and miles of distance for people to access cardiology care. It's so to your point that the technology could change that. Checking in, we've got John Windling. I mentioned to you on our pre-call, is checking in from right where you are in Dallas, Texas. He has a question we'll come back to shortly. Courtney Beck, thank you for checking in from Florida. Glad to have you here. And we also have Zafar Iqbal, and forgive me, Zafar, if I completely butchered your name. My North Carolina accent gets in the way. And please, thank you. He's checking in from Pakistan. Dr. Castro, one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you is something else that you talked about. I want to come back to the access issue and how the AI technology, particularly having that as embedded in the satellites, being able to communicate with the patient, having the information coming from the patient to the satellite, and then being relayed to their primary care doctor or whoever's responsible for their care, and also making decisions for them. But one of the things that you talked about in your TEDx, and something I've been speaking to people about, is there's a lot of concern around the ethics of AI, right? Like, are patients being treated fairly? And is the data being used to support all different types of patients in a way that it matters and it's ethical. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then I want to come back to the technology piece, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So when I go around the world speaking, I advocate let's use the data in your region, in your hospital, in this area. Because if I'm using data and information, let's just pretend from the United States and I'm speaking out in Dubai, then
Yep.
that data may not apply. And in a way, people be like trying stuff out and be like, hey, this is bias. It's saying XYZ and it's wrong. And so how do I correct that? And so I'm a big
Hmm.
advocate, like, well, let's use this correct information. Problem in the United States is that information is locked. That information hospitals don't want to share with each other. And
Hmm.
so there's different techniques. One is called federated learning, where they're not sending that information, they're just sending the weight of that data towards a cloud, and then it's training, and then it comes back and it's used as an algorithm for everybody. That way the privacy is there. That way they're not really submitting their information. But still, at then, everybody wants that competitive advantage. So unfortunately, they don't want to share. Now, with that said, it's different in other industries. Healthcare, I'm I won't say biased myself. I'm a giver, and I want to give equal access to everyone, regardless. And I know some of the healthcare systems look at it with a different angle because of the monetary portion to it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, one of the things that I've been talking a lot about with my network. And for those of you who are watching the Healthcare Leadership Show with Mary Spears Carr for the very first time, you'll learn that my network is nowhere near the size of Dr. Castro's, but it's pretty large, and it's all physician executives or hospital leaders. And one of the things I've been talking to physician executives, particularly in the tech side of the house, is some physicians in the marketplace, and I'm not going to make it a generational thing, I think it's just kind of across the board, are somewhat concerned, and even further down into the rank and file of people doing care delivery, this concern that AI is this replacement for them rather than a tool to be used. And one of the
Yeah,
things that you talk a lot about is how AI makes you a better clinician and a better provider of care, as opposed to it being a replacement for your decision making, et cetera. I would love
yeah,
for our audience to hear your take on that, because I think it's so
yeah,
important as we think about where we are right now. And the title of this talk is Future is Now, and it is right here, right now. AI is being used in so many different capacities already. Can you share with us how you feel, what you feel about that from is it a tool that's making you better?
yeah. Good question. I want to reflect on a couple of things. There's a thing called Martek's law, and what it
Okay.
says is technology is exponential. Our organizations are logarithmic. So think of a straight line. When the two becomes a bigger and bigger gap, disruption happens. And why do I mention this? Is this is what's going on right now. If I am leveraging the tool, and let's just
Mhm.
pretend that as a result, I'm able to give you better outcomes, I'm able to teach you, I'm able to preventative care to the point where it's a tangible difference,
Mhm.
then you can make the argument that why isn't my doctor not acting like Dr. Castro and using these tools, because now I have a worse outcome.
Mhm.
And as a result, you're going to demand your doctor to be able to leverage these tools. Now, why do I think this is improving? Because my favorite phrase, I need to stop saying it, but we don't know what we don't know. So if
Right.
I have this data analytics of your watch, your wearables telling me, your doctor, here's what's going on, then I can catch things early. Then I know things that I didn't know before. And then when I start treating you, I can treat you to another level. Give you a quick example. I'm really creating a digital twin of myself. And what's a digital twin? I've taken my medical records, every pill I take, every vitamin, my exercise, my wearables, putting it all together, and
Mhm.
literally seeing how I would act if I change this variable or that, or I take this pill, and literally helping increase my personal health span and as a result my improvement of my health. Why do I
Wow.
mention all this? It's because I'm using these tools. I'm seeing a huge interest in improvement. And so
Mhm.
to people out there saying, man, I'm worried about losing my job, I want to say this to you. These tools are going to be used. Now, the difference is use your clinical gestalt, use your experience, use how you creativity, how you see the world, put it with AI, and now look at the two together and see what output comes out. And you're still in charge. You're that human in that loop. You're the one manning that ship. But someone else that is not, you have a competitive advantage. Goes back to that Martech law that I mentioned. You will
Yes.
be the disruptor. You will be the one that people will call. And so I highly encourage you to think of the following. What we're entering is the great shift. If I, as a doctor, wear my stethoscope and I don't use this other data, then I'm
Hmm.
literally dating myself. I have evolved as a person, as a person, as a doctor, and all of us have the same. But if I'm leveraging these tools to another level, man, I'm saving lives, I'm helping, I'm doing so many things because of these tools. So I would highly encourage you to think of the great shift as maybe I'm not wearing the stethoscope as much. Maybe I wear a digital stethoscope that can hear what I
Hmm.
can't hear because I'm getting old. And as a result, it's hearing things that can save lives. That when I put this special AI stethoscope on a patient, it's bringing to light things that I didn't know.
Yeah, what a great answer, and you nailed it in terms of that idea of it's here, like it or not, and so why not leverage our understanding of it? Why not make it better? Why not be a better practitioner? Why not include that in our practice, in our work? And I'm, in my world, I'm not a clinician, but I'm a business development, leadership development person, and I'm leveraging these tools as well in terms of going deeper on the research work that I'm doing, or going deeper in terms of the training development we're doing, or scaling our reach for search work, or how we provide business development. The tools are there for us to use. Checking in, Genia Dowdy's checking in from Virginia. Thank you for being in the comments. Arvin is checking in from India. Thank you. And Luis, I see a really long post, and I love the fact that you're getting engaged in the conversation. And after the show, we will try to catch back up with that, all these different questions, or all these different comments. Arvin checking in. Alex is checking in. He's got a question. I want to Oh, Miriam is checking in from Pakistan. We got an international audience today, Dr. Castro. You're drawing them from all over the world. Um, one of the questions that John Wedling, I want to go back to that question, and I want to come back to one of the questions I have for you. John wanted to know, what are you doing with legislative strategies? Are you working at the state level or the national level? Because a lot of times, as you know, and you've been in the industry for so long, the government and the legislative process is behind. They're behind. Like we're only halfway down the highway, and they're still back at the pumps.
Yeah.
Sometimes, are you doing anything in terms of work in helping legislators understand how to support
Yeah.
AI initiatives, particularly in the rural market? I think would be one of the key areas. But are you
Yeah.
involved with that? Is that part of the work that you're doing, or is that something down the road for you?
No, I'm in. I'm blessed that the country of Singapore, for the Ministry of Health, has asked me to come on board, and I'm advising them. And the other is the Texas Medical Association has asked me to be an advisor for them. And ironically, last night I met with the governor of Texas, and we had a nice conversation about AI and space and the future. And so, what am I personally doing? I'm taking advantage of my doctor hat, my
Yeah.
AI hat, and my creativity hat, and saying, this is how I see the world. These are the things that need to happen. As far as advocacy, I'm working on the local level, meaning here in my hospital systems, regionally, state level. I'm trying to get more in the United States. I'm helping another country, but I want to help here. As far as uh, uh, informational AI policy. I'm helping different advocacy groups out there that they ask me, how can we help this AI agenda in the government level? So they're lobbyists and not particularly one side of anything. They're just wanting to improve. So I'm helping them. Um, I'm also meeting with companies like Teladoc, and met with the CEO earlier this year. How can we
Yeah.
leverage Teladoc to leverage these tools? And as far as bridging the gap with space, meeting with different governments as well to see how can we use this technology to improve humanity with AI.
And thank you for that answer. And another question that's similar to that, and Jennifer, Dr. Fessler's checking in, and law regulation within the medical device. She's talking about regulation within the context of medical device is conservative, and a lot of devices are not approved right yet for diagnosis. And she said, I think over time this narrative will shift, but how can we speed up the process so that we can get medical alerts on our devices sooner to people? Any work
Yeah.
being done in that regard? Thank you for the
Yeah.
question, Jennifer.
Great question, Jennifer. I've been blessed. I just got back from Dubai speaking, and they're being really proactive in Singapore on using these devices. And they're using unified electronic medical records for the entire country, and they're looking at their genetics, and they're doing stuff that we can't do because of politics. But here's what I think. It's kind of out there thought. I think they're going to create FOMO, meaning these countries are going to start using these tools. They're going to start showing how it works. They're going to have data. And here in the United States, people like Jennifer, people like me are going to say to our government leaders, like, why don't I have this myself? And that is going to create an extreme pressure for our government leaders because the GDPR costs so much money of our healthcare that it's going to push and push for us to start doing things quicker and accepting. Now, to answer you, the scientific approach, what can we do? We need to build that stronger clinical evidence for our devices. As you know, these wearables, the Apple Watch or whatever, the Aura Ring, they're just the way I see it as a doctor is I'm just looking for trends. Is this thing
Mhm.
100%? When I was in Germany last week speaking, I found this cool watch that I try and it does my blood pressure. It's not here in the United States yet, but
Yeah.
the reason I did it is just to see, am I trending up? Am I trending down? They claim
Mhm.
that it's pretty accurate, but even if it wasn't, I'm able to see my trends. And I really think for us, what's going to be really interesting is patients are going to start doing their own thing. They're going to start saying, you know what, this is doing this, that, and that has pros and cons. They may be like, oh no, my watch didn't tell me I'm dying, and in reality, they should have seen a doctor. But then on the other
Yeah.
extreme, it may have caught early atrial fibrillation, which is heart rhythm going wacky,
Yeah.
and that could have saved their life or it could have prevented a stroke. And so there's so many permutations to this, but it's going
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And if you have questions for Dr. Castro, please post them in the comments. And these shows, I keep them to 30 minutes because uh, I know everybody's busy, but we always run out of time. Dr. Castro, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about why satellites are so important, because again, in your TED talk and in some of the other stuff that I've read, and also for those of you who don't know, I live in the mountains of Georgia. I live on top of a small mountain. It's not very tall, but we have challenges up here with internet, with cell signals, etc. Satellite is critical to our ability. That's our backup plan, right? Starlink is how we stay in business, and it's our backup plan. And without it, sometimes we're out of business. I have to go down to the city outside to Atlanta to my office and work from there. But
Yeah.
there's all these areas where internet doesn't even, and cell coverage is not really available, but the
Yeah.
satellites are. Can you talk a little bit about how you
Yeah.
got so involved with the integration of into the satellite side of the house? Because that again, when we talk about the world, when we talk about the places you've talked about, Singapore, Pakistan,
Yeah.
Dubai, I mean, et cetera, around the
Yeah.
world, that's so important. Can you talk a little bit more about that technology? Because that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Last night when I heard the governor speak, two things that he focused on, he said the future is AI and these satellites. And why does it matter? 40% of the planet does not have internet access. And you're like, no big deal. But you know what it is when those things can be devices paired to our healthcare. And why does
Yep.
this technology matter? Well, if you have a Starlink, imagine all
Yep.
these satellites communicating, now you're
Mm-hmm.
giving global coverage. And
Yep.
now I see it as reducing digital inequality. Because think about it. If this person has AI and has these tools and it's using it for their health, and someone else just doesn't have access, period, because it just doesn't exist and the infrastructure is not in their town, then
Mm-hmm.
this person in theory will live longer because they have the tools. I'll do a quick analogy. If I grabbed a cigar right now, started smoking, and then that was 50
Yep.
years ago, you guys probably would smoke with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, it'd be crazy. It'd be like, he's a doctor. Why the hell is he smoking?
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing,
And,
Dr. Castro?
and my
Yeah.
point is this: in the future, we're going to start learning things that we're doing today that we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we used to do that. That is my point. That's creating that inequality. So these satellites are going to help us. And then what I'm excited about these guys is that they really want to put AI chips in the satellite. So now it's processing and continuously monitoring. And I know you're like, oh, that sounds big brotherish. But from
Yep.
a healthcare side, I'm looking at it, how can it help humanity? Let me give you a stupid little example. If the satellite's flying over Africa and it notices an increased population of mosquitoes, and as a result, we're going to see malaria. And as a result, it could tell the local pharmacies, hey, we need to stock up on these malaria drugs because we're about to see an outbreak.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't we be
Oh,
able to
incredible.
prevent
Yeah.
disease? And see, that is my point. And in the areas that where you live, could you imagine if I could pair those satellites with AI and then have your doctor where now you have 100% communication with me 24/7, no matter where you are on the planet?
Hmm. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, that right there is so important to the conversation. And there's a couple of questions been posted in the chat. One of them we addressed earlier about this fear of AI replacing you as a doctor. And I'd love for you to repeat your answer on that, because I think that's critically important. And then Miriam, we're going to get to your question, because I think it's about prioritizing deploying AI. Um, any thoughts on any other thoughts that you shared earlier
Yeah, I want
regarding?
to. Yeah, I want to add something to that. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, I think this is coming.
Yeah.
The right doctor using these tools is going to elevate the game and
Yep.
help people. And it's going to get to the point where it's malpractice not to use these tools. And I'll say it
Yeah.
again, it will be wrong and you'll be killing people for not. Now, with that said, we're at
Yeah.
this weird point in our society that using it can result in an adverse event and maybe lawsuits will happen. But
Yeah.
my point is this: it's educating, it's listening to these podcasts, it's understanding these tools, the good, the bad, the
Mhm.
ugly. That way we know how to use these tools and your outcome would be better.
I love that answer, and I think that's on point. Thank you for that question, Miriam. And again, I may be mispronouncing your name. Thank you. I know you're checking in. What ethical considerations should organizations prioritize when deploying AI in patient care? We've had conversations. I'm near Atlanta. Dr. Erskine, who's the chief technology officer there, has talked about the work they're doing at Emory and how they're prioritizing what AI platforms they're using and where. I think this is a great question. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Dr. Castro.
At the end of the day, it's looking underneath the hood. I advocate for a food label. Just like we buy a can of whatever corn, and we go and look at the food label. We're like, we know how many carbs, we know everything. Do
Yeah.
we understand what AI is doing? Do we understand what data was used? Do we understand its bias in XYZ? I truly think that we should have a white paper for your hospital system saying, okay, here's tool A, and this is the data it was trained on. This is what's missing. This is the bias. This is how it could be used. And
Mhm.
and we need more people that understand this. And I think that is huge. I really, really think this is what our organization need. That way we know what we don't know.
Great answer. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you on behalf of my audience is, you and I spoke, are hospital executives, nursing leaders within the hospital executive branch. All of my clients are companies that deliver care in some capacity or support the care of patients. There's so much out there around AI. There's tons of information and it's everywhere. Where's a good place to start? To if I am a hospital administrator in West Texas, and I'm running a critical access hospital, and I'm challenged just to keep the doors open. Where's a good place for me as that person to start to learn about how we might use these tools to better deliver care to our patients in this rural community? Where's a good place where do people need to start to
Yeah,
learn?
this is great. You see, I want everybody to do a quick reflection. when you first heard about ChatGPT, and ask yourself, what were my initial thoughts and how was I using it? And then pause and think of that same question now. And I could almost guarantee that everyone is thinking about it differently. Everybody is using it differently. And so what
Mhm.
has changed? The one change is education. And that is your answer. I think we need to start with just understanding these tools because as a culture, I call it the AI IQ. We're here. But as we start learning how to use these tools, we start learning how more efficient we can be, how we can be creative with them. And then we'll, as a culture, we'll accept it. But we can have the best AI tool out there, but if the hospital system's going to say no, if your organization is going to say heck no, then it stops right there. But if we can educate, then we can change it. So I think everyone, we really need to start taking these podcasts, take courses. I'm biased. I'm going to say follow people like me because then you'll understand. And I always think outside the box. I'm like, oh, wait, we could do X, Y, Z. And then fast forward in a couple of years as we're improving, we're going to start accepting things as a country, as a nation, and especially in healthcare.
Well, Dr. Castro, you and I both knew that when we got started, this was going to go by us crazy fast. And we're over time. If you're watching the show live or you're watching the replay and you want to hear more about Dr. Castro, connect with him on LinkedIn. He's posted a link. Follow him on LinkedIn, but also go to his website. There's tons of information there. I will post the link to your TEDx, which is on YouTube, and share this discussion with your network. And by the way, oh yeah, let's help push Dr. Castro over today over the 50,000 marks. If you're watching this live and you're not following Dr. Castro, go right now in his LinkedIn and follow him. We're going to push him over that 50,000 banner. And if you're not connected with me and you're not following me, and push me over the 12,000 as well, if you would. I'm Marion Spears Carr. This is the Healthcare Leadership Show. It's my Tuesday show. Going to be taking a break for the rest of the month because we've got big projects going on in the holidays. But on January 6th, Dr. Castro, you mentioned, we have our mutual friend, Scott Becker from Becker Healthcare, is coming on my show to talk about his new book that's being released around leadership in January. And please join us on January 6th at 12:30 Eastern. Dr. Castro, any last thoughts to share with the community? And I cannot thank you enough to agree to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to send 2 quick points. Number 1, demand more from your healthcare. Don't accept the status quo. Push it. I'm hearing all these stories of people being misdiagnosed. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending how you see it, they're using AI and they're finding some diagnosis and they're catching it early. So demand more from your healthcare. And then second, I know this is going to sound totally off from the whole conversation, but as an ER doctor, I can say, unfortunately, we don't know when our last day is. We really don't. And I see all these horrible things. And I'm going to say, make sure that you're reaching out to your loved ones, your support network, and try your best to make peace with your enemies because at the end of the day, we just don't know what tomorrow holds.
What a great way to close. And thank you, Dr. Castro. I'd love to invite you back maybe in March or April to go deeper. If you want Dr. Castro to come back, also follow him first to get him over the 50,000 mark, and let us know in the comments. Dr. Castro, have an amazing rest of your day. Merry Christmas to you and your family. When I'm back in Texas, I'd love to grab coffee with you and
we'll do it
and connect with you. And I've got some follow-ups for you that we'll talk about next week, in a follow-up. But thank you for being on the show. And everyone watching either the live version or the replay, this is the Healthcare Show with Marion Spears Carr. Have a blessed holidays. Thank you for being with us. And all our international viewers, thank you for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.